Le gasp! Mr. Wright! Hold on, let me look at it more closely. There's a missing piece of his jacket. There's a missing piece from his jacket. But there's a missing piece from his jacket, but the blood stained onto, like, this stain is continuous. So the jacket was cut before he bled from his mouth. Before he bled from his mouth. Okay. And this is the piece of the jacket, by the way. This here. So this has Emma's fingerprints on it. So Emma pushed him, yes, and this is the proof that Emma pushed him, but he bled out after this was cut off from his jacket. So there's no blood on this. Right? So it's not like he pushed him, he bled on it, and then it got cut out, because there's no blood on this. So he pushed him, this got cut out, and then he bled. Okay, alright, right, good. I'm glad we are in agreement. That piece cut out from his vest, could that be... The cloth was found inside Chief Gant's safe. What's this? This is a handprint, isn't it? That cloth, it had fingerprints on it. Whose ever fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. No. Nani? But those fingerprints, they're yours, Emma. Why are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright? Anyway, let's get on with the cross-examination. As long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flush out the real murderer. Very well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Actual crime scene! Again, like, why would there be a photo? Why would anyone have taken the time to take a photo? That doesn't make any sense. You're just making stuff up. Whoever's writing the story is just making things up as they go. What? It's pitch black. They had a camera, they had a flash. They were in a hurry to conceal the evidence, but they took the time to like take a picture before they did it. What? They were in a hurry to conceal the evidence, but they took the time to create more evidence before they'd concealed the evidence. What an idiot. Who wrote this? What an idiot. Come on. Come on. That's not plausible. When I arrived, I found Mr. Hold it! Oh hey, you're back. No, you gave up? Come on, Aji. Come now, Aji. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Chief Gant! What, now you want to make me out as the bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put a word or two in my defense. Put in a word or two in my defense. No, he already forfeited. I'm afraid it's too late for that. Nani? You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. This must be that risk we were talking about earlier. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck! Gak! Ah, so what? You think I'm worried? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence. Yes, that's true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence? No, I don't, but someone does. Hold on. The book is still here. Check. No evidence shall be shown without approval of the police department. I mean, he is the police department, I guess. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. it is not relevant to the case on trial, because what's on trial right now is the murder of Detective Goodman. Someone? So, what's your excuse, Righto? Exclamation. Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt. Is this true, Mr. Wright? If I show that piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer. No, but I already know there's no blood on it. And there's blood all over everything else, so the fact that there's no blood on it means that the cloth was cut off before he died, so therefore someone tampered with the murder, with the evidence before he died. Anyway. Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence presented now, and if you try to conceal anything, you will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries. What do I do now? I'd better think this through carefully. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. Should I present that piece of evidence? The one that shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall? Nope. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. Nani? You lie! Chief Gant, you opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. The conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. Ah, yeah, take a good look. See the victim's vest. Notice anything odd about the chest area. It looks like part of it's been cut out for some reason. You mean you had this in your safe? Nani? This means you, the Chief of Police, have been concealing evidence. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gore, Righto. Owned. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. Nani? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. I mean, there's so many lies already. This client is not reliable, is not credible, therefore we dismiss the whole testimony. It then occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. Oh good, you're admitting everything, good. So you really were manipulating her. I'm glad he's confessing. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, that when she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Guy. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Da convicted when I tampered with the crime scene. I hid 2 pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you. 2 pieces of evidence? You mean those items in your safe? But why? For insurance, of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? What do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. You're right, if you did, Dick Gumshoe would be police chief. See this jar fragment? I hit the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too? Oh ho 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 ho! Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come now, Righto. Cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding cloth you cut off from the victim's vest in your safe. Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that being chief and all. But it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late. It's been a long battle. Let me save the game because I don't trust the game. But the moment of truth has finally arrived! As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine! Cannot show evidence. No, it's too late to show the evidence now. Besides, even if I did, it just exposed that poor girl's fingerprints. Right, think hard over the circumstances. The circumstances? I'm talking about then and now. There's one major difference between the two. Weren't you waiting for that difference? So, Edgeworth figured out my plan. Okay, see, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. Okay, look. The rules say unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. The case on trial is the murder of Goodman. Is this relevant to the murder of Goodman? I guess it is. We have to prove that the chief murdered Goodman instead of Lana. It's kinda like tangential though. Okay, fine. I feel like we still can't. Anyway, we show it now to make him guilty, but it's still violating the rules. That the rules still say we can't do it. Or I guess he's given us permission to show it now. That too. Anyway, show evidence. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now. Alright then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh yes, at last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather, there must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean, it could not have been forged, it must be authentic, conclusive evidence. You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. Nani? Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence. Yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that? Mr. Wright, do you really know? Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they? Very well. I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person to whom these fingerprints belong to is... Emma! Emma Sky! Nani? They're mine! I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, you're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still tried to pin the murder on me. So it's true, tragic but true. No, there's the blood. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death. How could you? You monster! Miss Sky, you knew whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you You acted like she really didn't. Miss Guy, it's not over yet! Nani? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ah, but I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career too. Know you, Gant. Know your face. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer? Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Oh, and what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? Nani? Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. Nani? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is. Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold! He said behold. He said behold. He said behold. Behold! The piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. It's the photo. Where's the photo? Where's the photo? This photo? This photo. And what exactly is this supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes. His shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs no doubt were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh, but that piece of cloth! Wait! There's no blood on it! Ah! Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at that time. No, this is nonsense. Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Skye? Picked up the unconscious prosecutor and impaled him on the armor sword. Naga. Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. A jar that they then broke on purpose to leave behind a clue. And make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago, that you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest. Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer. No! It's finally all over. Alright. Huh. That was close, Righto. You almost had me. Sorry, but you have to do better than that. I refute your allegations. Alright, go on. What do you mean you refute his allegations? You see that piece of cloth? It's illegal evidence. Order! What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict the suspect. Remember, Aji. Earlier, old Righto here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Righto? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. Well, that's true. The defense did it's because he didn't specify it. Until the Chief of Police specifically said the piece of leather, he hasn't given me permission to present the piece of leather. He just said a piece of evidence. He didn't specify what it is. So I couldn't present it the first time. But when he said the piece of leather, then he gave me permission to present the piece of leather. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. But that's not fair. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth, true. Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal. Well, Mr. Wright. It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived. Mr. Wright, do you admit to it? I mean, again, I don't trust the game. I don't trust the game. Do you admit to it that you purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of cloth? I did not! I admit I refused to present it at one point. Aha, so the evidence is legal. No, it wasn't, Mr. Gant. Ah! It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't. What do you mean you couldn't? There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. No, Aji, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't really believe. There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not? Very well, let us settle this once and for all. Earlier you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now. I mean, there's only one thing to prove. This is my proof, Your Honor. With a chicken on it. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more. Nani? You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have approval from the police department. Rule number 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Sorry, but can you recall when was that picture presented? That was shown only a few moments ago. No, he's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh yes! No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the Chief of Police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer, and there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant! The killer was you! I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years he's been snooping around the department, trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Star, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said, "It's not too late. I'm going to hand all this over to Marshall." Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it, that accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake. The bloody handprint. Detective Gumshoe's locker. I used to be known as the crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car! I'm sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will. Leaving the prosecution's car aside. How? How could you get Miss Sky involved in all of this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I felt bad for having to do it. I also didn't have the time to pick and choose what to take. So, you left the jar fragments and the glove. Yeah. It looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. Yep. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me. We're the same. Well, no, you're a criminal and he's not. Quite. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Aji. Nani? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend. I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator and an example to others on the force. I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person. Those days are gone now, Aji. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Wright here. And Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. In fact, I can hear them already. The melodious sounds of a new beginning. Get out of here. See you in prison, asshole. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Sky, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years. From the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today. So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered. I'm sorry, Miss Sky. I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My, what high standards you have for a rookie. I can see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now, you just might make it to the top. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Sky. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you. Oh, it was nothing. Sure, it wasn't nothing, Edgeworth, come on. Come on now. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you. And yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth. Stop it, I only did my job. In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Sky. Yes, Your Honor. You are innocent of murder, however. Although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is you still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date. Yes, I understand, Your Honor. Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling? It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I felt free of these heavy chains. Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. Yes! That's right! This episode is far too long. I don't know what they were thinking. Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant Miss Lana Sky not guilty. Yeah, confetti, yeah, confetti. I should have confetti. Actually, no, I shouldn't, because I don't want to pick it up again. That is all. This court is adjourned. Like, confetti is fun if it's at someone else's place. If you're at someone else's house, then throw as much confetti as you like, with their permission. But if you're in your own house, then confetti is banned. Because after the party, you have to clean that stuff up, and it's a pain in the ass to clean up confetti. So, that's my advice for confetti. You only do it somewhere else, somewhere that's not your own house.